Hello everyone. ECOPRO 2020, welcome to the seminar. My name is Honda from UN Environment Program. In today's seminar, we will talk about plastic waste, how we should manage them, and how we can utilize the environmental technology to manage them. Together with our guests, we would like to talk about how we can manage the plastic environment and what sort of technologies have to be used. Those are the topics that we want to cover today. Now, let me introduce the panelists for today. From Indonesia, we have Professor Enri. He's from Institut Teknologi, Bandung.
Good afternoon.
And the second guest is also from overseas, from Thailand, from Solid Waste Management Association Thailand, Secretary General, Mr. Palatok. His nickname is Pin. Pin, hello.
Hello, good morning everyone. I'm Patarapol, Tularak.
Okay, and next we have Mr. Tsukiji from GEC. Hello everyone, it's great to see you all. From Osaka City, we have Ms. Ihara, Director, Environmental Policy Department, Environmental Bureau, Osaka City. And then from Foreign Ministry, we have Mr. Taki, Principal Deputy Director, Global Environment Division, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Japan. First of all, I'd like to ask Mr. Taki to have a word. Hello, everyone. My name is Taki, Principal Deputy Director, Global Environmental Division, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Proper waste management is important for the environment and public health, and it also reduces greenhouse gas emission. In addition, proper disposal of medical waste such as masks and protective clothing, which have increased sharply due to the new coronavirus, as well as plastic waste such as take-out food packages, are also urgent issues that the Japanese government is seriously addressing. For example, the Japanese government has been working hard to establish common goals for the international community. At last year's G20 Osaka summit, the leaders of the G20 led by Japan shared the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision, which aims to reduce additional pollution caused by marine plastic waste to zero by 2050. And it has since been shared by 86 countries and regions, including the ASEAN countries. Next, about specific actions. Japan has been leading the international community's discussion on marine plastics and has announced a marine initiative to support developing countries in building their capacity and infrastructure, both bilaterally and through international organizations. For example, Japan is supporting UNEP's countermeasure, UNEP's plastic waste initiative in Southeast Asia and India, as well as a research and analysis project by UNEP IETC, headquartered in Osaka, Japan, on plastic waste management and treatment technologies. Today's seminar will offer suggestions on how plastic waste management in developing countries should be done and consider how Japan's technologies and systems can be applied. We'll hear cases from experts from Thailand and Indonesia, Osaka City. Osaka City has been working hard for circular economy. I hope this will be a very productive session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now we would like to start the discussion. Before going into the discussion, I'd like to ask the guests to provide us with some information. First, Professor Enri, if you can talk about the challenges and issues in Indonesia. Professor Enri, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Today, I would like to talk about the plastic issue in Indonesia. Everyone use plastic. We cannot imagine that the world without plastic. Yeah, everyone throw their plastic waste into environment, and it end up being an environmental problem. A waste bank was introduced in an area in North Sumatra in collaboration with the Ministry of Environmental and Forestry Indonesia, IJS, and UNEP in February 2020, several weeks before the COVID-19 spread out in Indonesia. Their job is to buy soluble waste introduced plastic, included plastics, that has been discarded by the surrounding community and sell it back to the plastic recycling system to become plastic raw material. They have the opportunity to earn money by selling this waste. Basically, they don't think about the environment or the circular economy that has been raised by many parties. What they think is that this is an opportunity to make money, but it is not so easy. No industry in this area available that will convert the plastic waste into pellet for being used by the recycling industry. With the limited capital provided by the parties that support this activity, in the pandemic situation, they must find a way to sell their waste collected. The soluble plastic waste that has been collected must be transported by private vehicle to the Medan, around 4 hours drive, to be sold to the local waste bank as intermediate chain for the transport again to Java Island, around 2,000 kilometers away for further being processed. The first shipment, around 20 tons of soluble waste in May 2020, was transported to Medan, the capital of North Sumatra province. This long chain of travel means that it will reduce the profit margins that must be received by the parties involved. So the effort to shorten the logistic supply chain is a big challenge so that their business that actually help the environment could continue to run in a sustainable manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Enri. I have a lot of questions, but before that, I would like to have another case.
Next, we'd like to have a presentation by Ms. Ihara from Osaka City. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Would you show the slide? This is the new collection and recycling system for plastic bottles established by Osaka City. Osaka introduced this system earlier than the other municipalities. So it is important to reduce the use of plastic bottles derived from fossil fuel, but in reality, due to the convenience of such products, it is difficult to reduce it to zero in short period of time. So it is important to switch from throwing away plastic bottles to the recycling as material. Before this new system, as is shown at the top, in Osaka City, plastic bottles were collected from household together with cans and glass bottles in one bag to be sorted out at private companies. Then, recycling companies recycle the sorted materials into egg carton or fiber for clothing. So recycling was done with taxpayers' money. As it's shown at the bottom, with this new collection and recycling system for plastic bottles, private companies which conclude contract with local community collect plastic bottles from the community and sell them to recycling companies. And this community is based on the elementary school districts. And after deducting the expense, the contractors return the profit to the local community. In other words, local communities sell plastic bottles as things of value, not the waste, to contractors and can use the profit as income of the community for the events in the community. To make this recycling process work, residents of the community have to cooperate. They have to remove labels and a cap, clean the bottles so that recycling work can be done efficiently. With the bags of clean plastic bottles from each household, level of people's awareness about recycling and environment can be visualized, which will lead to pride and affection to the community. Please pay attention to the picture at the right bottom. You're going to find that plastic bottles were cleaned. So contractors can collect large amount of sorted out high-quality plastic bottles from the small area. So it is possible for them to further accelerate the material recycle from plastic bottle to plastic bottle. Very efficient collection is possible in an area with large population like Osaka City. And with economic incentive, people's awareness about sorting out materials can be raised, and as a result, plastic bottles, which were once mixed with other garbage, are now in the recycling system. The local government can reduce the amount of garbage to be incinerated and emission of greenhouse gas. With this system, people now have a stronger awareness about recycling waste and recycling, and affection to one's community, resulting in a more lively community. In addition to these, greenhouse gas emission can be reduced, and the recycling of plastic bottles with a secure, stable source is possible. And that be one way to reduce the maritime debris. As SDGs idea, the sustainable economy, society, and environment, Osaka City is determined to take various measures such as plastic recycling, which will contribute to the basic idea of SDGs. Thank you very much. So when we hear about the recycling system in Osaka City, after hearing about Medan, I think that Osaka has a very developed system. So I think there's so much to learn from it. I would like to discuss it later. And next, I'd like to have the presentation by Pin-san. Pin-san, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Patarapol from the Solid Waste Management Association. Could you please show me my slide? Back to the first page, please. I just want to show you this picture because you can see that in the foreground, there's a plastic bottle. This is a famous tourist attraction in Songkhla province in the south of Thailand. And the sunset scenery is destroyed by the plastic waste, as you can see. The next slide, please. And this is a normal landfill site in Thailand, as you can see that we still have a lot of plastic everywhere. And animals just scavenger in the landfill. Most of the plastic waste problem, we have the problem from the beginning. That means the law and regulation is not very well in place yet. We have normal solid waste management law and regulation, but we still cannot charge the waste according to the amount that you throw. So that means you can generate a lot of waste and you pay very little for the waste you generate. And the political willingness is the waste fee that I just mentioned. We still don't have the EPR law. That means the producer are still not responsible for the product, for the packaging. And as you can see from this landfill is an example that the external costs, environmental costs and social costs are not taken into account. And the oil price, how the oil price is related to this issue is the virgin plastic is very cheap now. So normally we have junk shops and waste bank around the country, and it can be sold for recycled plastic. But with the cheap oil price, the recycled plastic is so cheap that the informal sector stopped taking back the plastic. And another thing is the widening gap between the knowledge and technology. That means in some place we have very advanced waste management program, but in some area it's still like in the picture. So next slide, please. This is some technology and innovation that happening in Thailand, but mostly now in Bangkok. So the good thing is that the government launched the plastic waste management roadmap last year, and last year we had a national plan. The evidence that the plan is clear is the plastic bags. It used to be given away free of charge from supermarket and department store. And since the beginning of this year, no more plastic bags, only from the fresh market. And another thing is microbeads in cosmetic also banned. And in 2 years, in 2022, in the plan, we have to ban the food container made from styrofoam and the single-use plastic like straws and plastic plates, those kind of things. And I want to show you in the photo, you can see that with the mobile application, some company launched this mobile application to buy back the plastic, and you can see that even plastic bags, now they have value. So people don't throw away, they can sell it back. And the machine, the PET bottle returning machine is like in Europe, very advanced. But as I told you, it's only in Bangkok area. So hopefully this new technology will support Thailand in the future and will be available all over the country. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So IoT and application will be the keywords for us to work on. We'd like to discuss it later. So I'd like to give microphone to Kiji-san.
Thank you very much for your introduction. From myself, I'd like to talk about the situation in Osaka. So Osaka and Indonesia, and we also hear from Thailand. So I would like to summarize the talks. So please share my slide. If you look at the upper panel, this is issued by World Bank. Based on GNI, they stratified the countries. From the left, you can see the situation of waste management and also the paradigm shift of recycling industry. And also SDG standard technology and system have to be adopted depending on their situation. If you look at the left side, low-income countries and high-income countries, you can see the situation. If you look at the low-income countries, open dumping is rampant. But if you go to high-income countries, they have more sophisticated options in terms of the waste management. If you look at the middle, if you look at the recycling industry, this is about the recycling industry. In low-income countries, informal sectors are main players. Waste pickers are collecting wastes. Then if you look at the high-income countries, there are more formal companies involved, or small and medium-sized companies are involved, or in some cases, the government is playing a big role. Based on this concept, maybe I think we can summarize the situation like this. SDG standard technology and systems, they have to be considered by considering the context or the situation of each country. You have to look at the characteristic and situation of each country and select appropriate system for each country. Especially in low-income countries, they have to solve social issues first, and then they may take simpler technologies. So it's necessary to introduce simpler technologies for lower income countries. And for higher income countries, they should look more at global issues rather than their own local issues. I also provided some pictures. There was an introduction from Osaka City in Japan as well. 60 or 70 years ago, the situation was like this, as you can see in these pictures. And the pictures from Indonesia, these are the pictures that I took last year in Indonesia, their waste sites. Given the situation, we have to think about what sort of systems or what sort of technologies should be adopted. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. So I think there are three things that we can talk about. As Professor Enri said, how we should collect waste as a raw material of the recycling activities. And secondly, and the system which is needed for collection and recycling, I think we should talk about that as well. And number three, as Professor Enri mentioned, the issue is how we can make the system sustainable. Collection and recycling, we have to make it sustainable. So that's how we are going to talk about. So first of all, we have to collect plastic wastes for the recycling. That would be the first step. In Japan, the situation may be too advanced, but as Mr. Tsukuji mentioned, the situation was very dire 60 or 70 years ago. As Professor Enri mentioned, it's very important to collect plastic waste for recycling, but this is very challenging. So my question to Professor Enri, in Indonesia, what sort of collection system, or what sort of system is necessary so that you can increase the collection of plastic waste? Professor Enri?
Yes, I think the first, our task is how to increase the collection of waste itself from household and from non-household. Yeah, this is the first action that must be done by Indonesian sector, because our collection system is around 60% already, but we need to increase the collection system of waste itself. Yeah, and then at the same time, the community must aware about how to separate the valuable waste and non-valuable waste, so that we can recover as much as possible plastic waste from household, from the sources. Secondly, we already have the informal sector since long time ago, but these informal sectors, particularly located in Java, yeah, you will not find in outside of Java. So this is another problem, yeah, the collection of waste. Maybe in Java there are many people doing the collection of waste as informal sector. So our government introduced waste bank. Yeah, the waste bank would be developed not only in Java but also in other side of Java, in island, that remote area in Indonesia. But the problem is the location of the point of recycling is again located in Java. Yeah, the recycling system, the recycling industry is nearly located in Java. So how to increase the facility, the recycling system, So how to shorten the chain of logistic between the sources in the point of treatment of plastic. This is the key, I think, yeah, because in Java it is easy to get recycling facilities by doing by formal or informal sectors. But in outside of Java, we will not find this kind of facility, like in Medan, as I taught you before. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. So talking about Osaka, I have a question about Osaka. I'm often asked this question. So we ask Japanese people to segregate the waste, and Japanese community is well communicated. So in Osaka City, if you have any good example on how to communicate with the local community as to waste management. Well, in Osaka City, as Mr. Tsukiji showed, this was a very big issue in the past. So it took a very long time to raise the awareness of the local community. Environmental education is extremely important. For example, we have published this kind of book. Also, we introduced education at school as well. When we introduced this system, we were not sure if this will work well. But we first introduced a pilot project in a small community, and then people liked it. So that's why we want to spread this system in wider community. We have to make the system as simple as possible, and we have to make the network as simple as possible so that people are not too bothered by this undertaking. Okay, thank you very much. Ping, now I have a question to you. In Thailand, I think the same kind of issue is there. The issue is how to collect recyclable material. That's one issue. And apps. You talked about an app. So when you collect waste using app, how the local community responded? Did they like it or not?
Yes, thank you for the question. As I mentioned that the mobile application is quite new and limited in certain area in Bangkok only, not in other province. So it needs more time for general people to understand how it works. So now I can say that it's not very popular yet, but when I look at the machine, for example, the PET bottle returning machine, they have the screen showing the capacity of the machine. Normally it's quite okay because it say like 70% full. That means people really return the PET bottle in that machine. If it's not popular, it will show less than 10%. But when I look at the machine, I see like 60%, 70%, sometimes 90%. But the problem about recyclable material is we have to distinguish in Thailand. We have valuable and non-valuable. Both of them can be recycled, but for the non-valuable, like plastic bag, it's still mixed with general waste, and it can be recycled, but because of the logistic cost, the transportation cost, it's too high, so it's not worth recycling. And in Thailand, the whole country, we have only about 6 or 7 incinerators. Unlike Japan, that you have waste incinerators in many places. So for those kind of plastic that you cannot really do the material recycling, you can just burn for energy. But in Thailand, we have very few incinerators to burn those waste. But for the collection part, it's not a big problem because in many cities we have good collection cover a large area. But the problem is after collection, the disposal, we don't have waste to energy facility. We don't have enough of it. And for the other recyclable material, if it's valuable, the problem is very little because there will be someone picking up from the street, from the abandoned area, and sell it back to the recycling system. Okay, that's my response.
Thank you very much. So we now talking about the second agenda, that is environmental system. So as Pin-san now introduced to you now, there are many technologies, and Mr. Only introduced the situation there that you have to transport to the way collected material to the Medan, the faraway place. And Tsukiji-san, you have the World Bank data and to develop the technologies on the global scale. And I have a question to Ami-san. So, for example, in the city of Medan or in suburb of Medan, if there are any system, are there any actual system or technology to recycle the plastic materials?
Yes. For example, Medan is, I think, a big city, metropolitan city located in North Sumatra. When we developed the recycling system in Balige about 4 hours from Medan, we didn't find the end collectors. I mean, the industry that making flag, for example, only one. Yeah, it is a private sectors. So that some of the stakeholders from food and beverages industry develop some a kind of waste bank in Medan. That I think solution to collect the plastic collected from surrounding area to this waste bank and then send to Java to become pellets. Yeah. So no pelletizer industry in Medan. This is the problem. Again, they have to transport it to island, Java Island. There are many pelletizer industry in Java. This is the problem. I think if we distribute the pelletizer industry, for example, in capital of province society, I think it will shorter. Yeah, it will be shorter the distance. So the cost of transportation will be lower. I think this is the problem, the big problem of Indonesia with several hundred islands. Yeah. So how to distribute the system of recycling? Okay.
So I think one keyword for us today is that this decentralization. So Pinson talked about the very focused work, and I think the Japan's case is a very centered one. But how to introduce the more simpler technology in a decentralized way to the rural areas or each municipality in Indonesia is very important. So Pinson, you are working in a rural area now. So in Thailand, the local municipalities face the same kind of situation. And the recycled technology needed by the municipal government, do you have any exact example, specific example of the technology needed by the municipalities in
For
Thailand?
municipality in Thailand, the problem is about after collection, because they can collect the waste from household and from school, and they have a lot of program, awareness raising program in school and in the temple. But when they collect the waste, the problem is for the non-valuable waste that they cannot find a place for recycling. So now some of the municipality are working with the private companies, with the plastic producer or packaging producer. For example, in Surat Thani, where I'm here now, there's a plastic packaging producer just signed an MOU with the municipality to take the waste, plastic waste after the packaging plastic waste after the municipality can collect, so it can solve the logistic cost problem. And I think it's not necessarily to have the mobile application or very advanced technology in other areas beyond big cities. I think it's the key is to find the destination for the collected plastic waste.
Thank you very much. So we are running out of time now, but I'd like to ask you last question. So Professor Enri talked about the recycling of plastic is important to be established as a project, and to make it a sustainable one and to continue to operate it is important. And for that purpose, partnership is one keyword. And Alison, Professor Enri, do you have any specific idea about the ways to continuously operate this project to recycle the plastic? Do you have any idea about that?
Yes, partnership is very important, I think, because when I developed the facility, I contacted some food and beverages industry in Jakarta to help us how to solve the problem of transportation, etc. They promised to develop some kind of hub in Medan, for example, and then the other one to promise to make a joint between West Bank that already been developed by them. So our cooperation between West Bank in Balige, in the city where our recycling center developed, and Medan, it is due to the cooperation of a third party, yeah, from food and beverage industry in Indonesia. See, very important. So because they believe that their business will be increased if they can manage the post-consumer plastics. So I think a partnership is very important, because you know that recycling industry is not a question of environment; it is business question. Yeah, we cannot we cannot force the recycling industry to build their industry in everywhere. They look at the business. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much for your comment. And I'd like to ask the same question to Pinsan. So Pinsan, you are from the Waste Management Association, Solid Waste Management Association. So how do you promote the sustainable management of the waste? And you mentioned partnership. And what does the local municipality need? Well, in what direction the municipalities have to go from now?
Yes, in the national scale, we have a public-private partnership committee. So we have government and the private sector working on how to create the circular economy in Thailand. So we look at from the beginning, from the production phase, we try to avoid the non-recyclable, try to choose better material that can be recycled more easily. And from the distribution phase, we now looking into the EPR law, the extended producer responsibility, but still not very progress in this part. And the later part, the collection part, we have many private companies doing the collection with the NGO and the local government on the plastic. So in the partnership program, we have several phases of the life cycle of plastic. We even have at the end, after the waste is discharged into the environment, like into the river and into the ocean, we have NGO and volunteers and local governments to collect the waste in the ocean, on the beach. So normally those plastic waste collected from the beach, we have another recycling company to join and take those waste for recycling. That's all.
I'd like to have another hour to discuss these issues, but we run out of time for today, so I'd like to conclude discussion time here. So I think we had discussed 3 keywords. One is the most important one, that is education on environment. So plastic should be regarded as, or understood as, a material to be recycled, not the waste. That's the first step for us. And the second point is that the current system, as was introduced by Professor Enri and Pinsam, we have to think about how to make the recycle cycle more efficient, so with a shorter logistic or lower cost. And that's the second keyword. And the third one is partnership. So we are working on the issue of environment, but not only the people working in the waste related industry, but all the people, producers and consumers, have to be involved to work on this issue of plastic waste, which is a global issue. And recycling system cannot be operated without a cooperation or partnership with these people. So system or establishment of system or partnership is the third keyword we got from this discussion today. Lastly, I'd like to have one word from each panelist today after this discussion. So please start with Professor Enri.
Okay, yeah. Yes, again, yeah. We produce a lot of plastic. Yeah, it will damage our environment. So we have to reduce this plastic waste. And then we have to increase their valuable as economic way to help some people. Because with this kind of waste, we will get money for their living. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Ms. Ihara, please. Now we are coping with pandemic, but Pinsam, Professor Enri, Chikuji-san, I feel like that we are in the same room. We had a very good discussion about plastics today. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you. Pinsam, please.
Like Professor Enri said, plastic waste problem is not the national government responsibility or local government responsibility, but it's everyone's responsibility. So we have to work together, whether you are a government or residents or private company producer, and so we have to solve this problem together. And this is the key message from me.
Thank you, Chikuji-san. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity today. Indonesia, Thailand, and Osaka City, I could learn a lot from all of you. As a person who's involved in this issue, I want to think about how we can raise the value of the plastic waste, the plastic material, or we also want to give added value to those waste, considering the context or the situation of each local community. by utilizing partnership. That's how I want to find solution. As Osaka City mentioned, how we can collect clean plastic. That's one value we can add to plastic waste. And for that, we have to do environmental education. And Professor Enri and Pinsan talked about incentive, how to create a system where people can get incentive to collect material is what we have to think about. Maybe we can give some token to those people who collected cleaner plastic. But then we will have to think about the resources to get the token. So for that, we can utilize partnership. It may be difficult to create such a system in a very small local community. So therefore, global companies, a global organization can give us helping hands so that we can create a system giving incentive for the people. And ESG investment and green investment. And those kind of investment, incentive can be applied to investors. So that way we can create a win-win system. Once again, thank you very much for your contribution. I learned a lot. Thank you very much, Taki-san. Thank you very much for this valuable opportunity. Thailand, Indonesia, and Osaka City, you are all making a lot of efforts. And sometimes you have to think about, you are thinking about what sort of technologies or methods are most appropriate for each local community. In that context, the most important thing is to have discussion or dialogue so that they can come up with the best solution for each local community. Plastic is very difficult to decompose. Therefore, a lot of them go to ocean. We are all connected via the ocean. Therefore, international efforts is necessary to cope with this problem. As Japanese government, waste management, and especially marine waste management, that's marine initiative. We would like to take a lead through this initiative so that we can make contribution as a Japanese country. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Taki-san. And now, Ihara-san, the closing comment, please.
I'm Ihara, Director of Environmental Policy Department, Environment Bureau of Osaka City. Thank you very much for today's event. I'd like to say a few words in concluding this seminar. First of all, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to Mr. Taki, Professor Enri Damanhuri, Mr. Patarapol Tularak, Mr. Tsukiji, who kindly participated in this seminar and had a very significant discussion. And I also thank Mr. Honda, who served as Master of Ceremony today. Thank you very much. In today's seminar, examples of new waste management in Indonesia, Thailand, and Japan were introduced, and how the standard technology should be was discussed. We had a very meaningful discussion. Waste issue is an environmental problem, but it is also a social issue at the same time. Appropriate processing of waste enables the sustainable daily life and leads to the maintenance and improvement of standard of living. There are so many issues and there are no easy solutions, but if the examples shared today can be a good reference for people involved in waste management, I would be very happy. By expressing my gratitude to the members of UNEP IETC, Global Environment Center Foundation, and all of you who did great work in organizing seminar, let me conclude my closing remark. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Ihara. Now, we would like to conclude this UNEP seminar. Thank you very much for your participation to the end of the program. Thank you.